Welcome to the What's Your Deal podcast, where we discuss business acquisitions, investments, management, and exit strategies. I'm your host, Matt Euler. Let's dive in. Welcome to another episode of What's Your Deal. I am joined with my guest, Dana De Vito. And what's unique about Dana is that he has a background not only in business ownership, but also as a consultant to business owners and consultants. And he's been self-employed for 15 years. So I'm excited to have him here with us to see what we can pull from him as far as some of the insights he has with all of the business owners he's worked with and what's been effective and ineffective in his work. So Dana, thank you so much for joining us.
Yeah, absolute pleasure. Super excited to be here.
Great. Yeah, and we've met, it was 6 months ago, I guess. And,
yeah, roughly. Mm-hmm.
And one of the things that was so fun for me as we talked is it just was one of those conversations that could have gone on for a long, long time.
Yeah.
And probably because of a similar interest, but also similar backgrounds in a lot of ways. And so if you wouldn't mind, let's just start with how did you get started in business? And maybe you can talk about your background a little bit before then, but started in business and then to the place of actually coaching and consulting other people on how to be effective in business.
Yeah, fascinating question. As I was processing through this, my original plan for my career was to become a teacher. I wanted to get into education and really be as disruptive as I could in that field because I saw a lot of problems associated with it. In the course of going to university and taking classes, I started just working odd jobs with business owners, like small business owners. First one was at a coffee shop. Another guy had started a barbecue. And then ultimately I got hired on by a business consulting company out in Long Beach. And so we dealt with some of the largest companies in the world, from Waste Management to PepsiCo to McDonald's, and dealt with their senior management team and subsequent senior leadership teams throughout. I never coached or directly worked with them, but I was part of a group called Seminar Services where we worked with their 360 reports and some of the data that came in, repurposed it, and then resubmitted it back to the clientele for our consultants to work with their teams. And that got me thinking about, boy, it'd be pretty cool to work with these guys. I mean, these conversations, I see some of the documents coming through and their notes on it. I'm like, dude, this is pretty fascinating. So as I was coming close to college graduation, I was recruited from a vendor who was doing our software at the consulting firm to be their first employee. So it was two founders. One was a medical physicist, another was a software developer. And they said, hey, we like what you do. You're kind of a jack of all trades. Why don't we come in and help us grow our business? So I jumped in to work with them, did that for a couple years. And we grew from me being one employee of them to 15 by the time we had licensed our product to Canon. It was a medical imaging software. And then transition from that, I started talking with my wife's cousin, who was a Jack in the Box franchisee, and he said, why don't you come out to Arizona and take a peek at it? I think it'd be something you enjoy. And I was like, not a chance. There's no way I am going to be in fast food. We decided to come out because we're coming for a wedding, stopped into Prescott and a couple of the other communities where they were selling or looking at buying Jack in the Box. Fell in love with Prescott. I said, well, we want to get out of LA. Maybe we can take a look at this. Came back a couple months later and spent a week with my wife's cousin, kind of going through the operations of it and better understanding it, and said, well, why don't we give it a whirl? So I left the medical imaging company, and I think we sold our house and traveled out here within 6 weeks. And
wow.
Left our family, our friends, and everything. And that's what started me into the ownership of my own business. So did you actually buy or start a Jack in the Box, or was it? Yeah, how did that evolve? We bought two and built a third, all in the end of 2004 into 2005. So we bought the original two in May of 2005, and the construction completed on our third in August.
Wow.
Yeah. And, my wife was pregnant with our first child. We had left all our friends and family, so it was this huge, tumultuous first year going into business I really had no background in. It was a wild ride. So,
do you still own those?
So I'm out of the Jack in the Boxes. Okay. But 6 years ago, my same business partner and I, we bought into the Scooters coffee franchise.
Okay.
And now I own two. We were the fourth and the fifth kiosks in Arizona. We opened those up in August and November of 2019.
So food service is something that you took a liking to after your Jack in the Box.
Nope.
No?
It's kind of a strange thing to say. Early on, I love getting good at whatever task I'm presented with. So I love flipping burgers. I love making a cup of coffee. I like being really good at that. But what I really found my passion to be is helping my team grow. It's an entry-level position, but you're dealing with a business that does well over $1 million. So you're teaching these young kids to manage the operations of something that has a tremendous amount of cash flow. And, operationally, there's a lot of demands associated with it, and personnel. I mean, our staff would be somewhere between 20 and 35 people per site. So they had to get really good at all these soft skills and hard skills of the management side of it. And so that, to me, I really loved teaching that to these young people and help them continue on to the next step of their career.
Oh, that's great. Well, one of the things I'm curious about, so I've helped people buy and sell lots of franchises over the years, and a lot of times in my mind, when somebody buys a business, there is a model, right? There's a recipe in place. And when somebody joins a franchise, typically the reason they're joining the franchise because that wheel has already been invented and refined.
Yeah, absolutely.
So the franchises that you've been involved with, were you attracted to them because they had such a strong model, or how did you decide to continue with franchising as opposed to just starting your own coffee shop, as an example?
Yeah. Great question. And maybe I'm going to be a little honest here. So coming out of Jack in the Box, it was a struggle with a franchisor for many years.
Okay.
And really dissatisfied with that relationship at an executive level. Since then, the executives have turned over, and I think the relationship is much better than it has been. But at the time, in the heart of it, from 2011 to the late teens, it was a frustrating time. Felt a lot of pressures from the franchisor, not a lot of support, really some hurdles that were, I think, turning me off from the franchise model. I love the systems, but I just wasn't feeling support in the manner that I thought we deserved and we had a right to. So I'd sworn off franchising. And my business partner came back to me. He's like, I know we talked about never franchising again, but I love this brand. He's from Omaha, which is where Scooters is originally from. He says, I've met with the senior leadership team and they're great. So they were down in the Valley for a conference, and I got to meet them all for dinner, from the founder to the CEO to the chief operations officer and on down. And they were great. It was an amazing experience. And I thought, boy, I really do have to reflect on the opportunity in a different light than if, it's not Jack in the Box again, although again, that's a strong brand. It's been around since the 50s. Their systems are dialed in, and I think it's in a much healthier place now. But I really fell in love with what Scooters had to offer and the team that was leading it.
That's great. And that's continued on, I'm assuming.
Yep, that's right.
Yeah, I actually had a conversation this morning with a client I've worked with for probably 15, 20 years now. Mm-hmm. And he's in a franchise situation. And unfortunately, he's experiencing what you experienced with Jack in the Box, where at the corporate level, it's just things have changed and there's a dynamic there that's not serving. And so I'm glad to hear that the Scooters is working out great. And I think for anybody getting into a franchise, it's a marriage. Yeah. And making sure that it's going to serve long-term is super important.
Yeah. And that's a great analogy for it. It is like a marriage. There's ebbs and flows. Mm-hmm. With Jack in the Box, we signed a 20-year contract. And in that time frame, it was really good to start. Then it had its sour years, but then it came back again. So there was, I think, one thing is that any type of franchise agreement that you're getting into, it should be a relationship. And this has permeated the rest of my business as I get into the coaching and consulting side of it. But this idea of engagement, dialogue, building relationship and rapport, I mean, that's such an important component of it. So I think in any franchise, if anybody is out there looking at that needs to be the core base of it all. And ultimately, Jack in the Box came back around, and then Scooters has been wonderful with it as well. So,
oh, that's great.
Yeah.
Great. So from a standpoint of your primary focus, I'm assuming, is your consulting business, and that's with Elite Performance Associates, which I believe you're part owner.
Yep.
So can you describe for us how much of your day is spent managing Scooters and how much of your day is spent being a consultant, teaching people how to manage their business, and or maybe teaching is the wrong word, coaching.
Sure.
But I've always felt like business consultant can be cryptic. Like, well, what is that?
Yeah.
And I know there are areas of focus, but maybe you can describe some of what you do when you first walk into a business who's interested in having your service. Like, what does that look like?
Yeah, you don't pull any punches. Those are some great questions. And so the first one, kind of the divvying up of my time, I would say 10 to 15% of my week is really in relationship to scooters and helping out. And it's what I spend most of my time with is working with the leadership team, building them up, helping them kind of forecast where some potential pitfalls are, or help them understand where they should be celebrating, what to plan for, and again, how to get better at the skill sets that they're in charge of. So
Great.
That's how we kind of disseminate that down. And it affords me the opportunity to be free the other 85 to 90% of my week. And it's funny, nobody has any idea what the difference between a consultant and a coach is. And so that's a question I get asked a lot. Consulting, as I define it, is coming in and doing something for somebody. So if it's, somebody is lacking in SOPs for their business, it's coming in, doing an analysis of their operations and developing those SOPs and then handing it back to them. So I take that responsibility, complete it to resolution, and then submit that back to the company. A coach, similar to a sporting event or sport, is the idea that the individual has the skill set or the foundation of it, and I'm growing that in them, right? So I'm helping them realize their potential, maybe see it, but definitely walk the path of it. So helping them frame out what the destination is, what their desires are, how do we take where we're at today, develop a strategy and a set of tactics that's going to build them into the future. But it's really their performance that matters, not mine.
Okay.
If my name is never heard, if it's never understood, I mean, it's great. That's the coaching side of it.
So from a consultant standpoint, you give them a tool and then the implementation is up to them, or do you then switch from consultant to coach? Like, okay, here's how we're going to implement this, or
great question. I've had it both ways. I tend to keep a small set of clientele, but I go really deep and wide with them. And so oftentimes the door will open with a consulting opportunity where I will go in to fix something, but then with the relationships that are built, I'm asked to continue on, and then it is walking alongside them, helping to grow either that individual or other members of their team, or even as a larger organization, help setting standards and cultural norms that are, really casting a longer term vision for them to go out and achieve. So,
I'm such a huge advocate of coaching, and I don't know that I've ever had a coach that I worked super closely with. It's been in specific areas of my life. But from a consulting standpoint, having been a broker for so long, I've had lots of consultants approach me and say, listen, I can help your clientele, and I get to know them, and they're great people. And then I'll talk with my clients, and getting my clients to actually do what is necessary for them to improve their situation. It's almost like, if it's not on fire, they don't worry about it.
For sure.
But yet I know you've been very successful at getting clients to embrace how you can help them and continue. And so I'm curious about that. What do you see in that area? Why is it that some people are they'll just put that off forever if they can, and then others are like, no, please come in and help us get where we want to go.
Yeah, that's a great question. But I've got a question for you in that, if you don't mind. So, having been kind of in a consulting guide role, and then you've started exploring the idea of coaching yourself, though. What's been kind of the motivation or the site that you see that says, I want to go coach somebody. I want to help somebody because I think it segues into the rest of my answer.
Yeah. So the second part of that question, so from a standpoint of coaching, I've seen as a broker, and I can only do so much as a broker, meaning it's usually a one-on-one transaction, and then my work is done. Yep. I've seen a lot of people get into situations where they find themselves in trouble because they buy the wrong thing up front, or they end up in a dynamic that they, even just if it's structurally, the business they're in is a problem, and they get hurt by it. And so as a broker, I'm able to help one client at a time whenever they find me and however they come to me. And so my objective in providing coaching and training to people is to try to reach more people and provide the education and information that's necessary for them, in my experience, to make wise decisions so they actually get what they want, as opposed to end up in a situation they can't get out of. And in my world, usually that means financial catastrophe. So that's my motivation for coaching.
In your experience, how frequent do buyers get into an upside down or a dangerous or damaged position and make poor decisions either operationally or financially to get there?
Well, it's also part of my motivation in starting Amped is because I'm seeing more and more of it. And I want to blame that and lots of other things on social media.
Add it to the list, right?
Yeah. But social media these days is in my opinion, making it frivolous to just, you go buy a business or buy this type of industry, or it's not that big of a deal. And so as far as trying to quantify how many, as a broker, people who typically contact me are either have a successful business that they want to sell, or they have a mistake that they want to try to sell. And unfortunately, the mistakes are not what I specialize in helping people sell. I mean, most buyers of businesses that understand the concept of buying something that's successful with a proven recipe, they don't want to buy somebody else's recipe that's demonstrated a mistake. Right? Like, so once, and I've seen it unfortunately in quite a few franchises where it's like they got into it, it's not working, and those are expensive oftentimes with the franchise fees and leasehold improvements and all these things. And they bought the franchise based on what they expected it would do. And now that they've demonstrated what it will not do, I can't sell it.
That's right.
So it's a mix. But the businesses that are the most saleable are the ones where that recipe is solid. It demonstrates a profit of some sort that's saleable and viable. That's who I talk most with. And the people I can help, frankly. It's because I'm not in a consulting role, and a lot of the people who are already in a difficult situation with their business can't afford the consultant. It just it's very sad.
That's right. It becomes a self-fulfilling prophecy at the end of the day.
I'm afraid so.
That's right. So circling back around to the other side of the question that you had asked is, how do you deal with people that don't want to really leverage the information you're providing to get to cross the finish line or the result that they're looking
almost
for?
Like better themselves, right? It's like just...
it all, to me, every relationship is foundationally built out of trust. And so I spend two things early on is, how do we get momentum and show results? Like can we find some immediate pain points and make some changes that show that there's efficacy in what we're doing. And the other side of it is, again, being honest and upfront with what my expectations are, and that I come in with a heart of service. I really want to see people be successful, sometimes even if more than they want it. And that's a dangerous risk.
It is.
But that type of honesty and intimacy, I think, serves me and my clients well. Because I don't like shying away from the hard conversations. I've suffered in the last 20 years of business ownership and walking through this and with other companies. And we went through COVID where I had a client lose 90%. They lost 97% of their income and 90% of their staff.
Wow.
Survived. Right? So huge pain points. And then fast food, we go through these cycles, and it is a entry-level position, often looked at in a disparaging light in the public view, and which is awful because it's a great job. It's a great entry level. I had all my kids work there, right? And it gave them great skill sets,
right?
So my point being, though, that my experience in sometimes a challenging business a challenged business as an owner, I think it legitimizes a lot of what I have to say, because most of the time it's because I've already been in that painful point.
Been there and done it.
How do we survive it? Right? And I don't think that there's ever one answer. I think there's lots of answers, and there's just different ways to get there. Maxwell talks about this in I think the 5 levels of leadership. He's highlighting at the time the CEO of Southwest, as he was going through school. He was becoming an attorney, and he wanted to investigate the best attorneys in San Antonio. And one was this angry, loud litigator, super successful. And the other one was this quiet, polite, super successful guy. diametrically opposed, but just as successful. And so I don't think there's one way to skin a cat, but I think what we can do is leverage the experience of those that have walked in front of us before us and take some of their lessons learned and how do we adapt it and how do we see a connection. And so that's also, I think, part of my job is take my pain points or my experience or my successes and how do we translate that to where you're at. I go into a lot of different industries that I've never even had experience from. I've never been a doctor. I've never been a lawyer. I've never been a geologist. I've never been, a clothier, any of that. But we can get into it and we can start to translate and relate to them and where they're at based off an interpretation. And then this idea that I want their success at least as much as they do. Mm-hmm. And so going in with that heart of service and that honesty and integrity to it, I think is really a way to get in.
Well, and it's interesting you talk about the various industries because to a large extent, and there's always technical aspects, but I mean, it's people, it's profit, it's loss, it's customers. And it sounds like that's the area that you focus on mostly. And so do the clients you work with now, do they seek you out? Like, man, we got a problem, we need some help? Or is it more the relationships and the word of mouth between business owners where somebody says, listen, it'd be great if we could increase sales 20%. Let's call Dana and figure out if he can help us. Like how do those relationships start? And if somebody's a business owner that's listening in the audience, is there a point where they should consider getting assistance?
Yeah. Great questions. A lot to unpack there. So for me, I'm in my 13th year as a coach and consultant. It's all been referral. Mm-hmm. And that's been very good. I mean, it's been a great business and I get to really vet the clients that I work with. Okay. Just this year, my business partner and I, Dave Richards, we're expanding that. So we're opening our doors a little bit more and seeing, I think our messaging has got to a point where we need to share it with more people. So both he and I are in the process of writing books. His should be releasing at the end of this year and mine will be next year. But we think that what we have is really, the message that we have is really valuable because it's a people first, but people driving to profits, right? I think that humanity gets lost in the mix of it. And for a variety of reasons. Sometimes it's because we've always done it this way. My goal is more important than the people around me. I'm not saying that's true for everybody. But I think it doesn't matter what business you're in, you're always going to be in the people business. And we need to navigate that well. And I think that there's a lot of social and cultural upheaval. I think that there's some foundational and fundamental things that are there regardless of what's going on elsewhere. And that's to what Dave and I talk to is the heart of it. And so we really dig into some of the aspects that are universally and historically been around for hundreds and thousands of years.
So do people come to you with, I've got a specific objective or problem? Or do they come to you and say, listen, can you assess what we're doing? I mean, what do you see? Is there an area of improvement that you can help us with? Yeah. How does it usually start?
Yeah, it really depends on where they're at, what phase that they're in. Are they in a contraction or
business? Yeah.
Okay. So there's some where they've come in contraction and say, hey, we're losing. How do we stabilize this or make sure that we're able to recover or come out of this down point? And so that's a different conversation. Right? Yeah. And so there's a lot of different, we have to dig into the numbers, get into the financials first, start to look at their operating procedures and what are they doing and how do the nuts and bolts of it are probably more significant at that point. But the people are deeply involved in it. So do we have the right people on the right bus? On the scaling side of it where growth is, maybe they're getting ahead of their ski tips a little bit. And how do we grow in a healthy manner, keeping the vision and the culture that we're really trying to maintain truth to. And everything in between. Okay. Right. So I've got clients in each one of those phases.
That's interesting. Yeah. I've heard and I've quoted many times, except I don't remember who I heard it from. But
those are the best.
Yeah, but the speed kills. And I've certainly seen companies where they grew so fast that it gets really exciting and then they can't sustain it or the quality drops off or the customer's experience drops off. And it literally, responsible growth is something that I've come to believe is ideally the objective. I mean, in most industries and most of the business owners I know, they're not looking for a sprint, they're looking for a marathon.
Yeah.
And in order to have a marathon, even too much growth can be a huge problem quicker than you're able to absorb it and manage it. So, there's a
classic number of examples of companies that have gotten out too far and then collapsed.
Really?
Yeah. So, I'm sorry, I didn't mean to interrupt you.
Yeah,
I know you were going to a question on that. So,
well, actually, no, where you were heading was perfect. So, can you give us an example of where a company got too far over their ski tips and grew too quick? And it doesn't need to be one of your clients, but just what are the signs of that? Because growing can be so exciting.
Yeah.
What's a identifying factor when we're losing some control here, or we need to put the brakes off on a little bit, and it shouldn't just be full speed ahead?
Yeah, I think those are wherever your metrics of importance lie, and I think it really ties into what's the vision or the plan for the business itself. Before our talk today, you had asked one of the questions is, what do you see business owners or leadership struggle with that continues to get in their way? And one of the things, and I think this plays into speed, is oftentimes when I go into an organization, owners or senior leaders, they mistake tactics for destination or goals.
Interesting.
Like, what are you doing in your marketing this year? Well, what's your marketing goal this year? Well, we've got, our social media expenses has gone up and we're doing all these things, all these tactics, but why? We lose the focus or that true north of why are we doing those things. And so oftentimes we've got to call back to, okay, what's the heart behind this? What is the destination that we're attempting to achieve? Because if I know the destination, then it's the lens I'm going to look through every time I evaluate a tactic or an action that I want to pursue. But we don't go there. We start with, well, this sounds good. Or I saw it on social media. It's going to be a great thing to do. So I'm going to do this.
Well, that's fascinating. So I just hosted a webinar last night regarding the fundamental principles of business acquisition. And I started with desired end state.
Yeah.
And I started with desired end state because I'm seeing the same thing so often where people are focused on strategy first, as opposed to knowing where it is they want to go.
Yeah.
And at least in my experience, and I'd love to hear what you see, but in my experience, if we don't know where we're going, how do we know if we ever got there?
Yeah.
And yet we can keep running and run right past the finish line or the objective and not even realize it. And so it's but it's counterintuitive for so many people to just take a minute and figure out why and where am I headed?
Well, it takes a really established sense of discipline to stay focused on something that you don't get an immediate return on.
We could spend some time on that, couldn't we?
Especially as parents, right? We're like, come on, kids.
Yeah, that needs to be one of the sound bites for this podcast. So that was very good. The instant gratification is becoming so much more popular these days too, as opposed to being strategic and slowing down enough to decide what am I up to and why.
Yeah. Well, I think you said it best. It's a marathon. I mean, at the end of the day, when people get into the business, it is a marathon. I mean, Simon Sinek wrote a book called The Infinite Game with the idea that there's never a conclusion. The bell never rings, right? And so if that's true, how do we maintain this consistent and intentional direction and movement towards something? So, and you said speed kills. I think it's not always the case, but it's definitely if you don't know what direction you're going. Right? If you're running the wrong way, but you're going 1,000 miles an hour, well,
great point.
It's a problem.
Yeah. So. Something you just shared, I want to come back to because it's a lesson I learned a few years ago, and I forget exactly how you said it, but that, the working will never be done, and I'm not sure if you recall exactly how you put it, but what?
Don't ask me.
Yeah, but what I heard and what I related to was that there was a time in my business career where I was on fire to try to get stuff done. And I kept putting more and more stuff on my plate. Yeah. And I'd check it off the box and I'd check it off the box. And what happened was I lost touch with filling my own cup as an individual, being present with my family to a large extent because I was so focused. And the lesson I learned was I will never run out of stuff to do.
Yeah, right.
I mean, that's not my personality. It's not the lifestyle I've created with all the businesses I have an involvement in. There are times I just need to say, that's enough for today, because I will never get to the finish line of the list of stuff that I've put, and I say that intentionally, I put on my plate.
For sure.
And man, talk about a treadmill. It's not a great place to be. And I'm grateful that I learned that lesson before it cost me dearly.
Yeah. So that leads me to a question for you is with, those lessons are painful often, right?
Especially when you're stubborn like I am.
Yeah. We share that, I think. What tipped you over that point, or was it internally? Was it an internal monologue that you had, or was it an outside influence that said, "Hey, Matt, you gotta look at this"?
Yeah, it was an outside influence, and again, getting to a personal level, I was looking outside myself and seeing my life start to fall apart. My personal life, my family, the things I cared most about, and I had to take an inventory because, specifically, part of what happened was that I was so focused on getting to the finish line where our kids, my wife and I have 4 kids, where our kids were taken care of, they were independent, and they were on their own, that I was so focused on that objective that I was losing touch with the path of getting there. Yeah. And I was literally just trying to check stuff off the box, focused on a destination that was too far away and not enjoying the trip.
Yeah.
Yeah. Does that answer the question?
Yeah, absolutely. It's, I think you have to have a portion of humility to recognize and to hear and be willing to make changes to that. And I think we really need to take stock of ourselves and realize that we're not created to conquer the world and do it all ourselves, and being humble enough to. So kudos to you for just taking a moment and being able to reflect and have the wisdom to make a change to it. Because I think I've seen so many people just white knuckle it, myself included, in times in my career, and it is never a smooth and easy landing. And sometimes there's catastrophic and life-changing consequences to it.
Oh man, well, and I totally agree with that, and I'm so grateful. I had a friend a long time ago say, he used the word God because that's what I believe, but your creator, he said, you'll get a couple taps on the shoulder to get your attention, and then you get the knockout punch. Yeah. And I was fortunate enough and blessed that I got the taps on the shoulder and paid attention before I got the knockout punch, and my life got into shambles. So I'm super grateful for that. And honestly, and this is almost like a therapy session now, but
it's the best though. Yeah.
Yeah. Can I have some Kleenex, please? No, I'm just kidding. But honestly, part of that dynamic for me is that because I'm hard driving, like to conquer things, and I mean, the next mountain that I want to climb and the next shiny object that I've got the ability, and I'll even call it a gift, to be able to focus and usually get where I want to go. Now, I need to temper that very carefully with what's going to get sacrificed in the process of me choosing to chase something. Yeah. And it is part of my desired end state now that comes into all decisions I make around, am I going to buy another business? Am I going to enter into another partnership? Am I going to conquer that next mountain? Yeah. What's it going to cost me in other areas of my life? Because I don't need more mountains and I don't need more shiny objects.
Yeah, right. Yeah, that's fair.
So...
Yeah. There was a good friend of mine, as I was kind of starting this consulting role, he always highlighted, he said, if we only listened to our own best advice, we'd probably be a lot more ahead than we are today. And that really resonated with me, especially because similarly, I've struggled through those moments too. And I always have to come back and reflect, am I holding on too hard? Am I driving too far? Where am I? Because there are personal consequences to it. Mm-hmm. And, I just became an empty nester. Both my kids went off to college. And I don't know about anybody else, but I sit down, it's only been a couple of weeks, and I'm reflecting like, man, what missed opportunities did I not take advantage of in the last 18 to 20 years? And I'm kicking myself way more than I think my kids would, or my wife. But still, I can look back, and I've made sacrifices that didn't prioritize what I hold to be the most important thing, which is relationship with my wife and my children. And am I perfect? Am I built to be perfect? No. Mm-hmm. Is there opportunity to get better? For sure. And so as I give advice to my clients, like I can see when they're running, I was just talking with a client a couple weeks ago about, hey, every time we've got a problem in this business now, you're saying, I'll do it. And that's going to be your death. And it's going to be the death of your business. Uh-huh. And it's hard for him to hear. And as I was saying it, I'm like, okay, I need to hear that too. What do I need to take off my plate? What do I need to make sure I'm delegating? And so it's a nice reflection on, if we only listen to our own best advice.
Well, and it comes with maturity, right?
Careful. Don't accuse me of that.
I was speaking to myself.
Okay, perfect. Well done.
Right. No, but I just think you do enough laps and ideally you pick up some things along the way. And when I was a younger man, it would have been hard for somebody with the wisdom that I would like to think I've gained at this point to understand, those, like you're saying, those times with kids, and it's a fine line. I mean, we need to be providers and we do all these things, but yet those moments they don't come back. And fortunately we have the ability to create new ones, but it's just a balance. Yeah. It's a fine balance.
Yeah. It's like always a moving point too. Right. Where should I stand? What do I need to do today?
Exactly. Yeah, that's for sure. Well, so I'm curious in the time that we have left. So number one, what is an ideal customer for you and where can people find you?
Yeah.
Maybe we can chat about that for a second. And then I've got one more high quality question for you.
All right, perfect. Ideal customer, I love working with organizations between 20 and 100 employees.
Okay.
And that can run a big gambit of gross revenue per year. So I've had those size companies from 2 million to 100 million. And anywhere in that, I've dealt with it all. And those are great organizations because I think we can really impact not just individuals, but also a broader swath of, and really try to change this idea of what it is to be successful and how to grow talents and skill sets within a group. How to reach me, I can be reached on LinkedIn, Instagram, or our webpage, which is eliteperformanceassociates.com.
Okay, eliteperformanceassociates.com. Great.
Yeah.
And so do you generally work with just the leadership or do you work with their team as well, or how does that evolve?
Yeah, usually it starts off at senior leadership, whether it be owner, CEO, or some C-suite. I still have a heart because this is what I did in my own business, is working with front and midline management, helping them see like the transition from, now I've got some responsibilities. I was a good technician. I've got responsibilities now. How do I be successful at that and see a growth line for me where I'm successful at it? Because it can be so overwhelming, and I love helping them understand it. There's hope here and there's opportunity here, and let's show you the skill sets that's going to get you there. So I love doing that. I've got a couple clients that I work with their mid-level management teams, and I have a ton of fun with it. But I do love helping owners that are overwhelmed or struggling to achieve their next goal and destination, whether it be, like I said, from a distress point or from a scaling point, really see that vision come to life and with a practical and sustainable sense. So I thoroughly enjoy that.
That's great.
Yeah.
Well, the last question I have is one that's dear to me because I never want to forget where I came from and who helped me get to where I wanted to go. And I think that gets lost a lot these days. And it's interesting talking with you because in your role and what I'm picking up from who you are, you've been this person for a lot of people where you've helped them get where they want to go. But I'd love to know if you can share with us a story about somebody in your world who believed in you when maybe you didn't believe in yourself, or gave you a hand up when you needed it to help you become successful in what you've taken on.
Yeah.
And personally and or professionally, because I know how important your family is to you as well.
Yeah. So luckily we've got another hour on the recording. That list is long, Matt. I was looking at that in prep for this, and I'm going to do such a disservice to all the people that have poured into me over the years, because it has been I just can't even name them enough, but I will. And it's cliche, but there's a reason behind it. But my parents,
Okay.
there's a couple things. So my dad was born in Italy, 1931, came over just before the war in 38, and my mom was born in the rural areas of Alaska. And in the 40s, grew up some kind of distressed times. And they showed me, as I was being raised, some different things, but some really foundational traits that I've carried to this day. My mom always showed up. My dad too, he had a different responsibility, but my mom, everything I did, from my baseball games to running track, she was always there. Any crazy idea, I put out this underground newspaper at my high school. I went to a Catholic high school, and she helped me print it up, and it was critical of the administration, and I was doing that, and she was always supportive of every vision that I ever wanted to do. My dad was just an incredibly hard worker. He was an electrical engineer for the shuttle program, and after the shuttle exploded in '86, he was laid off. Oh. And so we lived in the Central Coast of California. He went back to Boeing in LA, so he would leave every Sunday night and come back every Friday evening. So I'd only see him a couple days of the week, but he did that for 7 years without complaint. Just to be that provider, to be that. He was just as caring and as supportive, but he just did it in a different way. Mm-hmm. And so those things really stuck with me. Is sometimes the most important thing to do is to show up. And so I like to think that through hard things, I will be there. And that's what I try to help show my clients is it could be the best of days, and that's really fun, and we get to celebrate them. In the worst of times, I'm going to be there with you. And, because it's not good to do it alone. And that's the heart what my mom showed me, and then my dad, doing what we need to do to make it to my businesses were open 363 days a year, 18 hours a day. Sometimes I would walk away from it at 2 o'clock in the morning, sleep for an hour and a half, and be back at it. Just a couple hours later. And so that perseverance, those two things, my parents were foundational to me. So
it sure sounds like it. Yeah. And it's interesting as I'm hearing that story to see how your mom compensated might be the wrong word, but she still got you what you needed in your dad's absence. Yeah. And he was doing what was needed to keep the family, a roof over their head and all of those things. And especially to do it without complaint is another interesting aspect. I share a similar story where my mom, when she was raising my brother and I as a single woman, she worked for 7 days a week and 1 night a week for 4 years straight. That probably was not her ideal lifestyle. That was not her desired end state. That was not, but she did it, and she did it for a great reason. And especially as I grow, it's the more I appreciate the sacrifices she made. Just like you and I are talking about the moments we might have missed with our kids. She missed a lot of them, and she did it for a good reason. And like your dad,
It sounds like you both observationally and intentionally took on some of those characteristics that she was displaying to you. So
absolutely. And just like your dad, it's a haul to be away from your family for a whole week at a time, let alone week after week after week after week. Yeah. Well, that's great. So I really appreciate you sharing that. And I also get that there's a whole lot more people in that list that you could
do me a disservice
that you could acknowledge. But I think for most of us, ideally, it starts with our parents, and they're the ones who have the opportunity to believe in us in a way that we don't even know how to yet, and that can carry us through a lot of life. So. Well, I really appreciate you being here with us and giving us some insight into your world and how people can benefit from consulting and coaching and getting an outside perspective. And I hope more people take advantage of it, frankly, whether it's with you or somebody else, just because and this always irritates me when I say it, but I just don't know what I don't know.
Yeah, you and me both. Exactly right.
And no matter how hard I try to know what I don't know, there's still areas in life I don't. Yeah. And it takes an outside perspective like you provide with your clients to give that.
Yeah, and I learn every day too. I mean, that's the great thing about doing what I do is I get to learn just as much from my clients as they do from me. That's the fun of it.
Yeah. It's an exchange.
It is.
Yeah,
that's right.
Well, thank you again for joining us.
Thank you.
Yeah, absolutely. Well, I hope you've enjoyed this session, another session of What's Your Deal with Dana, and insight into how consultants and coaches can just really honestly catapult us to where we want to go, but also take us out of the frame that we're accustomed to living in and see a different perspective. And I also hope that you get from this conversation that understanding where it is that you want to go is what's so important. And for me, I've learned that the hard way so many times, that part of what my mission is to help people walk their way through business and the achievements they want to make with that in mind, as opposed to just doing it because it's there in front of you. There's so much more fruitful in life when you get to where you intended. So with that, We will look forward to seeing you on the next episode. And that's a wrap on today's episode. We hope you enjoyed the conversation and got some valuable insights into the world of buying and selling businesses. Want to be a guest on our show? If you have a deal that you'd like to discuss with us or a business story to share, we'd love to hear from you. Shoot us an email using the contact information below in the episode notes, and let's make this happen. Never miss an episode. Make sure you subscribe on Apple Podcasts, Spotify, or wherever you listen. And if you found today's episode helpful, please leave us a review. It helps more people like you find the show.